Chapter 114. Chongmyung looked at Hyunjong's back as they climbed up the mountain. Hyunjong, who congratulated Chongmyung, called him to talk alone. And here they were now, climbing the mountain alone. Chongmyung's eyes stayed fixed on Hyunjong's back as he followed behind him. It was the second time he was staring at the elder's back like this. The last time was when he witnessed the tragic sight of the sect leader, unable to open the door to the underground warehouse. The back of Hyunjong, who carried the fate of the crumbling Mount Hua alone. That sad back, which was unable to be shown to others, remains firmly imprinted in Chongmyung's memory. But today, his back seemed a bit less burdened than before. Hyunjong, who finally reached the summit, looked down at Mount Hua. Chongmyung also looked around, taking in sights of Mount Hua's rugged mountains.
Chongmyung.
Yes, sect leader.
This is the highest peak on Mount Hua.
Yes.
Did you feel anything when climbing up?
It was a random question, so Chongmyung just honestly answered what he felt. It's high. Hyunjong turned and looked at Chongmyung. However, Chongmyung just proudly puffed out his chest as if to ask, was it wrong? Hyunjong smiled seeing that.
Yes, you're right.
Hyunjong's face softened.
I've called you here because I have something I want to ask you.
Is this where it starts? Chongmyung's face turned grim. He wasn't sure what the question would be, but he knew that he needed to avoid being entangled or confused.
Chongmyung.
Yes, sect leader.
The plum blossom on your sword.
Chongmyung licked his lips. Firstly,
thank you.
Hyunjong bowed his head towards Chongmyung. At the unexpected action, Chongmyung flinched and took a step back. Why are you doing this, sect leader?
This isn't being done as the sect leader of Mount Hua. I am thanking you from one human to another. I have always wanted to witness that scene, at least once in my life. But my position as the sect leader of Mount Hua is more important than me being a human, so I cannot help but ask you, how did you manage to make the plum blossoms bloom with the 7 sages sword?
Chongmyung looked at Hyunjong and spoke. It just happened naturally.
Naturally?
Yes, as I learned the 7 sages sword, the plum blossoms naturally bloomed. I don't know why either.
I see.
It's just... Chongmyung looked at Hyunjong and asked, aren't all the swords of Mount Hua like that? Hyunjong looked down at the view beneath his feet without answering. After staring down at the mighty figure of Mount Hua, he said, wise. He thought that maybe there was a secret behind what Chongmyung did. However, Chongmyung's answer denied his thoughts.
Right, that is Mount Hua's sword.
Chongmyung was simply saying that he was ahead of the others. In other words, if the others continued to train, then one day their swords would also make plum blossoms bloom.
Plum blossoms.
If the day comes when all of Mount Hua's disciples can do that, the era of Mount Hua will begin again.
Plum blossom swordsman.
These were words that no one dared to say now. Plum blossoms were the symbol of Mount Hua. Naturally, the name of the one that could wield the symbol was the Plum Blossom Swordsman. Right now, no one in Mount Hua deserves that title. However, as Chongmyung said, as long as the day comes when every disciple can make the plum blossoms bloom, that title will surely be passed on properly.
It's still a long way off.
The atmosphere was nice, definitely. Looking back at Chongmyung, Hyunjong saw the mischievous smile which weirdly put his heart at ease. Hyunjong spoke with a large smile.
Chongmyung.
Yes, sect leader.
What is Mount Hua to you?
Chongmyung shook his head without answering. He seemed to see his Sahyungs in the blue sky above. Mount Hua. For me, Mount Hua is, as his Sahyungs said, is just Mount Hua. Now he understood a little of what that meant. Hyunjong lightly nodded his head when he heard that answer.
It is enough that you are a disciple of Mount Hua.
A warm smile formed on his lips.
People just want to be here, but the world doesn't leave them alone. That's the way the world works after all. Can you manage to hold your ground?
Chongmyung chuckled. If I couldn't hold my ground, I wouldn't have started.
I see.
Hyunjong looked at Chongmyung and softly said,
if that's how you think, then Mount Hua will protect you. Mount Hua and I will protect you from everything you might have to bear.
Chongmyung smiled. Nothing was asked. Hyunjong didn't ask a single thing. There must be countless things he wanted to ask,
but he was saying that Chongmyung being here was enough for him. The sect leader of Mount Hua, Hyunjong, was born later than Chongmyung, and compared to Chongmyung, he didn't have a reputation built on strength. In terms of power or prestige, he was someone that couldn't be compared with Chongmyung. But Chongmyung acknowledged him, because this man possessed something that Chongmyung lacked. He was never the sect leader, and Chongmyung was unable to call himself a Taoist, so he couldn't help but respect this man who chose to follow his own path. Sect leader, it isn't about protecting me. Hyunjong seemed confused. We're just going together, under the name of Mount Hua. Hyunjong's slightly hardened face cracked a small smile. You're right. Hyunjong smiled softly. Chongmyung. Yes, sect leader. Promise me one thing. Chongmyung raised his head and looked at Hyunjong's soft eyes. I hope to hear more from you someday. Chongmyung opened his mouth slightly and then closed it. It felt strange. It was like something was being squeezed within his chest. He pressed down on the emotions he couldn't understand and looked up at the sky. I will. Someday. Right. Someday. Excitement doesn't end so easily, especially if they have been through something incredible that's never been experienced before. For months, such excitement can dominate a person's mind, let alone a few days. Mount Hua's third-class disciples were currently in such a state. Although the conference was over, the third-class disciples weren't free from the results of the conference. We really won. I still can't believe it. It's like a dream. We seriously won against the Jongnam sect. It would have been easier to accept had they been confident of their skills and regarded the Jongnam sect as a worthy opponent. However, most of the third-class disciples believed that they were weak and lacked faith in their skills. It was understandable. Their skills weren't developed through their own efforts. It would be more accurate to say that Chongmyung forcefully injected their skills into them. Moreover, Chongmyung was a tyrant that made one understand the cruelty of this depressing world. He wouldn't even explain what kind of effect the training would have on them or what level they would reach once they completed it, so their dumbfounded reactions were only natural. I don't know what that bastard's thinking. Who else if not Chongmyung? Everyone gathered, nodded in unison. As the aftermath of the incident swept over them and they started to calm down, they realized how terrifying Chongmyung truly was. No one among the third-class disciples was unaware of Chongmyung's greatness, but what he did this time was so great that he single-handedly overturned everyone's understanding of him. Jogul, who seemed strangely mesmerized, spoke to Yunjong. Sahyung. Huh? I can't sleep. Are you even going to ask me to give you counseling? No, not like that. Jogul scratched his head and spoke. Whenever I close my eyes, the sword Chongmyung showed keeps flashing in my mind. It almost feels like I'm being possessed. I can't explain it well, but it's like that. Yunjong gulped. It's the same for him. It was the same for Yunjong. Whenever Yunjong would close his eyes, he would see the swordsmanship that caused plum blossoms to bloom. No, even when his eyes were open, he was constantly thinking about it. At first it was fine. Most of the work was done by Chongmyung, but the other third-class disciples also defeated their opponents. The more they thought about their victories, the more it became difficult to calm their hearts. But as time passed, the excitement faded, and they started to think about what they saw. That sword. Fantastical. Could it be explained further? Yunjong felt like he had a good fight against the Jongnam sect. But that sword. If only he could unleash that sword on his own. Sahyung. Yunjong looked at Jogul. Will we ever be able to display a technique like that? Yunjong fell into deep thought. Someday. Cool. Yes, Sahyung. I don't know if this is something I should say when I'm just a third-class disciple of Mount Hua. Hearing those words, everyone's eyes focused on Yunjong. To be honest, I just wanted to be strong. Yunjong continued to honestly speak his mind. I never thought about reaching a certain level or wanting to show any particular techniques. I just had a vague desire to get stronger. It was the same for me. Jogul spoke like it was a confession. Most of them probably felt the same, which helped Yunjong to relax slightly. But this time, seeing that sword, how should I put it? Yunjong shut his mouth to carefully choose his words. He never felt that he was bad at speaking, and it wasn't that he couldn't find the right words.
For some reason, he just found it difficult to express how he felt right now. After thinking about it for a few moments, Yunjong spoke frankly. I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to display that swordsmanship myself. Everyone nodded. Perhaps these words represented what all of them were thinking. Perhaps that was the sword of Mount Hua. That's the direction they should engrave in their hearts and strive to achieve for the rest of their lives. Several years after their initiation into the sect, they had finally seen Mount Hua's true swordsmanship. Can we really unfold that technique someday? Yunjong received everyone's attention and slightly endured it as he nodded. I believe that we can. There was determination in his eyes. We are the disciples of Mount Hua. There's no way that a disciple of Mount Hua would be unable to display Mount Hua's swordsmanship. If we work tirelessly, one day we will surely be able to achieve that goal. Sayoung, we need to train well. I now have a goal. I'll surely reach that level one day. Right, I'll work hard too, along with all of you. After a long time together, the third-class disciples had begun to believe in each other and unite as one. Even if we have shortcomings, won't Chongmyung solve them? Because he's like a goblin. Won't he make us stronger? Right. At the same time, confidence in Chongmyung began to rise within them. But it was then, bang! The door opened violently. I must have told him 50 times to open the door with his hands. You can't just kick it open. It seemed like Yunjong's thoughts were read as the door was closed normally, and a very familiar face began to slowly scan through the disciples in the dorms. The calm faces quickly contorted in panic. It's starting again. What is he going to say now? Chongmyung's lips seemed to twitch as if he was annoyed before violently opening. What are you all doing exchanging warm words of encouragement like kids, huh? Just why haven't the ghosts taken this demon back with them yet? Well, they could never catch that kind of person.